New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Even though it's not really New Year for us yet, it is for you.
Yep.
And for you today is all about who will you be in 2025. Who are you guys? Do you guys know who you're going to be yet?
I have a good idea of who I'm going to be in 2025.
Josh?
Yeah, I've done some thinking and some writing about it.
Perfect, because that's what we want to teach you today is the difference between goal setting and writing about who you want. I keep saying who you want to be, which is kind of true, but who you will be. There's a little bit of a difference between want and will. And when we change our words, we know how that can change the way it feels. And we've been watching people set goals for a really long time at this time of year. What are your guys' thoughts on goal setting?
New Year's resolutions have picked up a bad name because they so often fail so quickly into the process. And what we see, or what I see, you guys probably too, is that people are setting these goals without any sort of planning, without any sort of writing, without any sort of thinking about what it's going to take, what it's going to look like to achieve the goals. And once it doesn't work out the way they had hoped it to, and I'm using that word on purpose, you would hope it would work out, you're quitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Versus some other ideas that we're going to show you today about how we can take those resolutions, goals, whatever words you want to use, we'll use them interchangeably today, and make it stick so it's not something that, as maybe by the time you're listening to this, you're already given up on whatever goal you had set, last week on January 1st.
Yeah. So, my opinion is goals, a lot of time it's kind of becoming the new word of like diet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a
goals.
diet.
Yeah, I'm on a diet. I'm on goals.
Yeah, I'm on goals.
Which, just don't seem to stick. And it's kind of almost getting that negative tone to it that diet's getting. Like, oh, goals. Oh, here I go again, setting the same goals year after year after year, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to stop. I'm done dieting. I'm done goal setting.
Here comes the voice in your head. Yeah, you remember the last time you tried that and you failed? Why are you doing it again? Why are you even thinking about this? You can't do it. And that's usually where the roadblocks start popping up, and you do exactly what we talked about. You quit.
Yeah. So that's why we're going to do at the gym. We're doing a new challenge called Who Will I Be in 2025? Instead of having members set goals, they are going to write about who they will be in 2025, and then we will come up with an action plan for them based on the description of who they want to be. And that's what makes this so important, and what makes it so different is when we write about who we want to be, there's a vision that comes along with it. So often, we set goals, or people have set goals in the past. There's zero vision that goes with it. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to eat better. I want to start exercising. I want to play with my kids more, whatever. There is no vision to any of that, opposed to if we write a very detailed description of what those things look like in your life, now we get a vision to who you actually want to be, help you create your why. So we're going to take you down those steps on how to get there. So we're going to start with the first one, which is the first thing that you need to do before you can even start setting goals is actually reflect and assess your past year or 2 years, whatever. We'll just say reflect on 2024 first. Mm-hmm. And the first step to that is do not go straight to what wasn't good. Start with what went well. It's so easy to skip that part because if it went well, we need to make sure it stays there.
Yep.
If you just go straight to the bad, you might add stuff and then the good stuff actually disappear. The things you were already doing could vanish and then now you're just chasing your tail around. So going over the wins in your reflection. Then what? Tina, what would you do next?
Well, I mean, I agree with we're going to go to the good stuff, but I also want to look at where I want to show up differently. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to look at that as a negative. I'm going to look at that as where are some places that I can see that I could show up better than I did last year. That doesn't mean I showed up bad there. It just means I want to improve that.
Yeah. You got an example?
Sure.
Not putting you on the
Yeah,
spot or
putting you on the
anything.
spot.
But it's true because I think all of us can identify these roadblocks pretty quickly. And the ones that we don't identify, we just are trying to block out. So I will be very transparent. There have been times that I've shown up to a 5K race, for example, and I am not ready for it. I run all the time. I love to run, but there are times that it's not something that I make a priority. And when I get there and I'm in the race, I think I would really like to be doing better. And then I have to remind myself, I didn't put in the work. Not showing up here the way a prepared person shows up. And so I can tell you that has been something that has popped into my mind before at times like that. How about you? Anything?
That's a pretty good example. Where I want to show up differently, Good question. Should ask myself this before. This is just spur of the moment.
You popped it on me.
Yeah,
but,
fire back.
Well,
it's okay.
Do you have any other? That was just one that I can tell you that I know that I have thought about. So again, I know that's going to be something that I'm going to reflect on for 2025. If I'm going to be signing up for races, it is going to be an intentional effort for me to show up there the way I want to.
I'm going to say right here, I'm going to show up better here for you guys, because sometimes I show up with not a whole lot on my sheet of paper. And today we're very organized, and I think it feels good to see that there's we have a plan and we're all on very much the same page. So
We even talked about it ahead of time.
I'm going to show up better for this.
What about you, Josh? Because now
you've had time to think.
You've had 30 seconds.
I would say even though we've done so much work on this past year, showing up for our clients better. It's an everyday process in bettering ourselves so we can show up for them.
I think that's great, because that's, kind of my point about saying that I am going to look at places I want to show up different. That doesn't mean that we're not showing up for them now, but we can always improve something. And wherever you are at in setting your resolution or how you want to show up in 2025, you can always improve it. And there's always opportunities to level up and to become the best version of yourself, and just keep building on that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, we just received a comment box today as a gift. Yeah. So if there's any way we can show up better for you, if any of our clients are listening, write and put it in our new comment box.
We're very excited.
We're very excited.
We'll probably have to do a show on some of the comments we receive. We'll do a live unboxing.
Looking forward to it already.
And then the last part of reflecting and assessing would be, you do need to look at your struggles. What didn't go well? What did you not like about last year? And then now, what do I want to fix? Yeah. And so getting those things down. So knowing what those are, the wins, where do you want to show up differently, and what did you struggle with? That's the first thing that you need to do when you reflect on 2024. So step 2 is start to write down some specific actions that you're going to take. This is pretty important, because if it's not specific and all you do is just say it in your head, it'll be a story that just stays in your head, or an idea that stays there forever, that never comes to fruition.
Yeah, so this is where we're going to have you write it down, get really clear, get really specific. And, after that, that's when we can go to that next part, breaking it down and what's the first step to get there. For example, you might have a larger goal, but you're not even sure where to start. But I would advise writing it down and just kind of doing that brain dump, because one of the things that we've learned over the past year and a half is that we're going to write down what we want to do, and then we're going to play with our words, and we're going to change that story so that we have the opportunity to make it accurate and reflect what we want to do, what we really want. And it's okay if that first draft is that big part, and then we're going to bring it back and then put it into that actionable plan. Like, let's say that if you let's say you've never ran before and you want to run a 5K. So, that's the big goal. The 5K is the big goal. What is the first step of somebody who wants to start running, right?
We'll get to that part. First, just get down the action step. If you want to become a runner, okay, I'm just going to start running.
Right.
And just get those action things down on paper. Just get it started. Try to be specific with it, whether it's a nutritional thing, exercise goal, family goal, whatever it is, just get it on paper. And then, any other kind of thoughts or ideas, Josh, as far as writing down specifics?
If you said this before, I may have missed it, but we want to write this in sentence, paragraph form, not just a list. Write this as a story.
So that's going to be kind of the third step. So 2 is just getting it on paper.
Yes.
And then now, once you kind of have all your thoughts and ideas just jotted on paper, now step 3 is writing the story in as detailed as possible. And how many people probably don't even know what that even means?
A lot of people don't know what it means.
So we have to get into some detail, like what does writing a story actually mean? And that's where writing in complete sentences in paragraph form. So if I was going to make some changes for 2025 and I want to show up better, then I need to write this in a story. Like I'm going to tell Josh and Tina exactly how I'm going to show up better as I'm taking notes throughout the week. I'm going to jot those down as I come up with ideas. I'm just going to put my simple ideas down. But then there has to be a time where I actually sit down and put all my little ideas and we get them organized like we have today. So, at least, an hour before the show, before we record this, it needs to be done so we can all go over it together and make sure that if we have any revisions. But I want to write that as in every week, I'm going to jot all my ideas down on my desk where I'll have a piece of paper and pen that is ready there to take those notes. And then on Wednesday morning, sometime on Wednesday morning, I need to be specific. I don't know my schedule off the top of my head, but I would write down the time at 10 a.m. I'm going to put my notes in order so that way I am ready to share it with Tina and Josh by 11:15 when we start to record.
I like it, and I can't wait for the next episode.
Gosh, you guys are going to probably hold me to this.
Well,
this is just an example.
You said the best way to take action is to put it out there, right? So
put it out there.
Just put it out
there. It's out there. But anyways, so every little aspect that you come up with gets its own paragraph. So if nutrition, what's the paragraph and story you're going to write about nutrition? What does your life really look like?
And if I can add in there, journaling is something that I just started a few months ago and was scared of it at first. And when I first sat down with my pen, I was worried about what to write. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start writing and the rest will happen.
Yeah, it's just a story. And the good thing is you can change the story all the time. As many times as you want. You can change the story until it's the way you like it. So writing that story in detail. And if that's something that you need help with, reach out to us. We can help you with that piece. That's kind of a learned behavior, I would say. It's going to take practice on how to write this stuff in story form. It's not just going to, the first time, I promise, it's not going to come out exactly the way you want it. And it shouldn't, because you should always be revising. And nobody ever wrote a great story on the first try. Maybe they did, but I don't believe them. So, any other thoughts on writing the story in detail? Any pieces that we missed or advice that you would need to know? Okay.
I don't think so.
Next one. This one has always been super important to me. I always ask this question to people. I ask it to my wife all the time. Why? Why? It's a really important question that you have to ask yourself. So once you finish that paragraph of what your life's going to look like, the way you're going to change your nutrition or exercise routine or, getting out with the kids, whatever it is, you need to follow it up with another paragraph as to why it's important or how it's going to change your life.
Yeah, because if it's not important, it's going to be really hard to follow through on it because if it's not something that's driving you, guiding you, it's not your North Star, you're not going to follow it. You're going to follow it as long as willpower allows. And then, again, potentially leading you to that place where you just don't do anything.
Well, yeah, anything we do, if we don't understand why we're doing it, we're not going to continue to do it.
What's the point?
Right.
Like if eating healthier is something I said I wanted to do, but I have no idea why I want to do it, then good luck.
Yeah, and when you're doing that writing, that first draft, whatever you want to call it, your first, when you're writing your paragraph, you are going to be keeping your why in mind at that time. It's going to make it easier to write.
Yeah.
Because you'll know why it's so important to you, and attaching it to your, your resolution, your goal, how you want to show up, it's going to be easier.
Yeah. And I mean, I can think of lots of things I said, I'd really love to do that. Or that sounds like, I should make that a goal. And I thought about it like, why would I want to do that? Like, it really doesn't even make it's not that important to me to go do that. So then I don't do it because it really wasn't important. All other important things take over. I've had the thoughts of like, it'd be nice if I just trained harder so I'd be in better shape for when I played hockey on Sunday nights. But then I'm like, does it really matter? I'm 41. These kids are 23, 24 years old. Do I really need to put in this extra effort of workouts that I don't truly enjoy just to try to be a half a second faster? And for what? It's 9:30 at night on Sunday. So obviously, hence I've never taken the action to really go through with that type of training, because it's just like, it's not that important really. Like if I think about it, I can still get out there and keep up well enough that I'm satisfied with. It doesn't really matter.
You're wiser and more experienced.
Yeah. So anyways, that's one of my thoughts that I've had. But it's like, it'd be, at times it's like, oh yeah, I should do that. Or I'm motivated to do that. As soon as I get done playing and these young kids kick my ass. And by the time I get home, it's like, it's over.
But I think that brings up a good point when you're analyzing that why.
Yeah.
And you kind of shift and you're like, well, that's not important.
Yeah. So that, like I said, it's just an example, but analyzing, if you don't have a good why, then it's probably time to move on.
It's your why is very personal. It's important to you. It's something that, I'm going to use word like, brings you joy and makes you excited and makes you want to do it, versus feeling those pressure words like I have to do this or I should do this. I could, right?
I need to.
Like I could get in better shape to play hockey and be a half a second faster, but that's not really what's driving me to be this person that I want to be. So really getting in, it's a personal thing. And that's why we're going to do this, writing, because this is really going to be all about what's in your mind and what makes you tick and what makes it feel important to you. It's not about what anybody else thinks you should do or what someone said you should do. It's what you truly want to be.
Yeah. And, again, it just makes things so much easier when you know why, and makes it fun versus a chore. So, and the last thing is, now it's taking this nice story that you wrote and trying not to overwhelm yourself with it, because it could have 5, 6, 7, 8 changes in there that you want to make. And the idea to change that many things at one time, as we know, is a terrible idea. It will only last, like you said before, as long as your willpower lasts, which is not very long. That's a feeling that comes to an end, and then so does all our progress that we've tried to make. So what's the best way to do this, Josh, Tina?
One thing at a time.
Yeah. One step at a
Slow
time.
incremental changes.
Well, man, I was hoping for a much more exciting answer than that, but that's it.
That's the bottom line.
That's the truth.
That's the magic.
That is the magic. One step at a time. So how often, how do I break down 8 things?
Choose the most important one.
You can choose the easiest
Or
one.
the easiest one.
Yeah. Could go multiple routes.
Yeah.
You could go easiest or most important. Do not choose the hardest. That would be my suggestion, is just because as I see people do that all the time. And the hardest one, guess what? Sometimes takes a lot of work, and then we don't feel like we're making any progress. So I like to think of Dave Ramsey's snowball effect, paying down debt. So when I think of it, start with the easiest one that you can get done first, or the easiest to implement. So that way you're getting to check the box. Yes, I got this. Now I get to pick the next easiest one, master that skill, then add another one. And then once I'm getting all these other habits done, then the hardest one can be for towards the end, And I've already added 7 things, and now trying to just think about the hardest one alone is easier than thinking of the hardest one plus the 7 others. Gosh, I'm never even going to get to do number 2 because I can't figure out this hardest one.
Yeah, and as you're making the small, slow changes, each one somehow becomes easier. And when you do get to the one that you thought was the hardest, it might not be as hard because you've taken all the proper steps before it. And then you surprise yourself and you're like, I made this really complicated and really difficult, but it was really simple. I just wanted to skip steps 1 through 7.
Yeah.
Before I got, and I wanted to jump straight to 8.
Like cooking at home. We'll say like a lot of people, sometimes people want to skip straight to, I'm just going to start eating all my meals at home versus what if step 1 is eat a piece of fruit? Step 2 is eat a vegetable. Well, when you start eating a vegetable, you probably made it at home. So you're already starting to implement the things that went into eating at home by just breaking it down a little bit smaller. And then progressively. And then by the time you're drinking water, eating fruits, eating vegetables, going grocery shopping on the same day, now eating at home has actually become, like you said, what would have been the hardest without those other things in place just became really easy. It's like, oh, well, at this point, all I have to do is do a better job, show up shopping or whatever, or learn a few skills in the kitchen. And now I can cook at home, which I wouldn't, a lot of people would have failed at because they didn't even know how to eat a piece of fruit at home or a vegetable, whatever. So, that's, all I have for the step-by-step breakdown, unless you guys have any other thoughts on how that can be done.
No, I think this is a good starting point for people and, something definitely that we're going to do with the gym members here in January, and everybody else can follow along at home and, write your story. Start writing that story of who you want to show up as in 2025 and breaking down the steps and putting them into action, right? That's definitely a big part of it, is starting to take action even on that very first and that smallest step. The times that, and you guys can attest to this, the times where you've been the most successful and you feel like you've shown up, you took action and you took consistent action. And maybe it wasn't perfect, but you still did it anyway. And you kept building that, you kept building that skill of showing up for yourself. And I just think that's just really important to mention, that when you're practicing something, that doesn't mean perfect. It means that we're taking that first step and starting.
Yeah. And one other thing I just thought of too is nothing is every day. Do not set an everyday goal. It's not possible. It's setting yourself up for failure right off the bat. So we teach people you can never have a goal that's more than 5 days a week. So if your goal is eat more fruit, 5 days a week is the goal. You can certainly do 6 or 7, but you cannot set that as your goal. So it's got to be 5 or less to start. So unless you guys have anything else, best of luck to everybody on who will you be in 2025.